It was a bright sunny afternoon and the stadium was alive with excitement. Fans from both teams had filled every seat, waving banners and singing songs, their voices blending into one big wave of energy. The smell of popcorn and freshly cut grass hung in the air, mingling with the sound of cheering and laughter. Children sat on their parents' laps pointing at the players on the field, while teenagers shouted and clapped in rhythm with the drums and chants echoing from the stands. It was one of those days when the energy of the crowd seemed so strong that it almost lifted the players themselves. Among the spectators and staff, there was a special presence that went unnoticed at first. A large, alert German shepherd, part of the stadium's canine unit, was quietly moving alongside its handler near the sidelines. The dog's coat was shiny and well-groomed, its ears standing straight and its eyes scanning every movement. The handler, Officer Daniel, a tall man with kind eyes and years of experience, held the dog's leash loosely, confident in the dog's training. The dog was calm, but there was an air of readiness about it, as if it could sense things that humans could not. The match had just started. The players were passing the ball skillfully, weaving around defenders and making sharp runs toward the goal. The crowd roared at every clever move, and the players responded with smiles and gestures to encourage the cheering. It seemed like an ordinary, perfect afternoon for soccer. That was until a sudden, unexpected sound cut through the noise. A sharp, urgent bark that made some fans turn their heads in surprise. At first, the bark was almost playful, like a dog calling for attention. But then it continued, louder and more persistent. Officer Daniel noticed immediately. The German shepherd was pulling slightly against the leash, ears forward, eyes fixed on something on the field. The dog's posture was tense, its body low and ready to move. Daniel followed the dog's gaze and saw it. A lone soccer ball near the corner of the goalpost, sitting still on the grass as if it had been left there deliberately. The dog barked again, more urgently this time, and tried to break free. Daniel tightened his grip on the leash, pulling gently, but the dog resisted. It wasn't acting like a normal dog excited about a ball. It was focused, almost as if it was warning him about something. Players began noticing the commotion. A defender called out, laughing, "Hey, someone's dog wants to play." The referee tried to gesture toward the dog, signaling for it to leave the field, but the barking grew louder. The crowd's laughter faded into curiosity. People craned their necks to see what was happening, whispering among themselves. "Why is the dog barking so much?" one man asked. A woman nearby shook her head, smiling nervously. "Maybe it wants the ball," she said. But the dog's intense focus and repeated circling of the ball made it clear to anyone paying attention that this was no ordinary play. The German shepherd's growl was low, not threatening but warning. Something about the ball had captured the dog's full attention. Daniel moved closer, trying to calm the dog with soft words and a gentle touch on its neck. "It's okay, Max," he said. "Let's go," but Max refused. He barked again, circling the ball, sometimes stopping to stare at it as if waiting for someone to notice. The handler's heart raced. The dog was trained to detect dangerous items, and this behavior was exactly what they had drilled for countless times during training. He signaled to the nearby officers, asking them to hold the players back while he assessed the situation. Meanwhile, the players and referees had stopped their movements, puzzled by the interruption. Fans were leaning forward in their seats, eyes wide with curiosity. Children whispered to their parents, pointing at the dog and the ball, "Why won't it stop?" One little girl asked. The stadium had gone silent in parts, and the usual sound of cheering was replaced with murmurs of concern. Daniel motioned for a few security officers to approach carefully. They stepped onto the field slowly, hands raised to show they meant no harm. The dog immediately positioned himself between them and the ball, a low growl rumbling in his throat. Daniel knelt down, keeping a hand on Max while watching the crowd. His mind raced. In all his years of experience, he had never seen a dog react so strongly to a ball without some real reason. Max had a remarkable sense for danger, and he was not showing false alarm. A stadium announcer's voice came over the loudspeakers, trying to calm the crowd. "Ladies and gentlemen, please remain calm. Our security team is handling a situation on the field. Thank you for your patience." But the murmurs continued, growing louder as fans stood on tiptoe to see what the excitement was about. Some pulled out their phones, recording the scene, while others whispered warnings to their friends. Children clutched their parents' hands tightly, sensing tension even without understanding it fully. As Daniel and the officers approached, Max barked again, spinning around the ball, eyes darting to anyone who moved closer. The dog's body language was clear. He was not playing, he was warning. Daniel's heart pounded. Every muscle in his body was alert. He knew Max had never been wrong in situations like this. The dog had a sixth sense, trained over years, that saved lives and prevented dangers in places Daniel couldn't even imagine. Fans began to realize that this was serious. Shouts of curiosity turned into murmurs of concern. "Is it dangerous?" someone asked. "Maybe the ball is just weird," another suggested. But the look in Daniel's eyes, the tension in Max's stance told a different story. People started stepping back from the edge of the field, giving space for the dog and the handler. The atmosphere in the stadium shifted from casual excitement to anxious attention, everyone sensing that something important was unfolding. Daniel called for more officers to secure the area. He slowly guided Max toward a safer position, trying not to alarm the dog further. Max refused to leave the ball, circling it continuously, barking sharply whenever anyone came close. Daniel knelt and whispered encouraging words, trying to calm him just enough to prevent panic while still letting him do his job. "Good boy," he said softly. "You're doing great." Max's tail wagged slightly, but his eyes never left the ball. The players and referees were now fully aware of the seriousness. Some stepped back toward the sidelines, glancing at the crowd as if to ask for their help in staying calm. Coaches waved their hands, telling players to stay in place, not to make sudden movements. Fans remained standing, holding their breath, captivated by the dog's persistence and the handler's careful movements. It was unusual to see a single dog hold an entire stadium's attention in this way. Minutes passed, though it felt longer for everyone. Max's barking never stopped, and Daniel began signaling to the bomb squad following protocol. The stadium was on high alert. The announcer tried to reassure the crowd again, emphasizing safety. Parents whispered comforting words to children, and strangers looked around at each other with shared concern. The air was thick with anticipation, the sunny afternoon now heavy with tension. Max's persistence had one effect that Daniel noticed immediately. He had drawn the attention of every person in the stadium to the soccer ball. Nothing else mattered in that moment. The dog had made everyone stop, pause, and notice, something that might save lives without anyone realizing it yet. Daniel felt a sense of pride mixed with anxiety. He had trained Max for years, and he knew this dog had a gift for sensing danger. Now, in the middle of a cheering stadium, that gift was on full display. As he continued to hold Max, Daniel thought about how unpredictable life could be. People came to the stadium to enjoy a game, to cheer for their favorite team, to have a good time. No one expected a dog to stop a match, to become the center of attention, or to hint at a hidden danger. Yet here it was. Max was doing exactly what he was trained to do, and Daniel had to trust him completely. He knew that the next moments could be critical. The crowd's excitement had transformed into quiet curiosity. Phones were out, people whispered to each other, and eyes stayed glued to the field. Some fans smiled nervously, thinking about the possibility of danger but feeling reassured by the handler and his calm demeanor. Others simply watched, fascinated by the loyalty and intelligence of the dog. It was a moment no one would forget, a mix of fear, fascination, and admiration for a dog who refused to ignore what it sensed was wrong. Daniel took a deep breath, keeping one hand on Max's leash, ready to act at any moment. The dog barked once more, sharper this time, circling the ball with focused energy. The stadium fell completely silent, the cheers gone, replaced by a tense anticipation. Everyone waited, knowing instinctively that something important was happening. Daniel's eyes met the dog's, and in that moment, he understood fully. Max had found something, and whatever it was, it deserved complete attention. And in that quiet, tense moment, the stadium realized that this day, meant for a simple soccer match, had turned into something extraordinary. No one knew yet what lay hidden, but one thing was clear. The dog's barking was not random, and it was about to reveal something that would leave the entire stadium stunned. The crowd remained frozen in their seats, eyes glued to the field. What had started as a cheerful soccer game had turned into a scene of suspense. Fans whispered nervously to one another, some standing to get a better view, while children clung to their parents' arms, sensing that something unusual was happening. The bright sun shone down, making the green grass of the field look even more vivid, but the atmosphere was tense, charged with uncertainty. Max, the German shepherd, continued to circle the soccer ball, barking loudly and sharply. Each bark seemed to echo across the stadium, demanding attention. Officer Daniel kept a firm hand on Max's leash, but he didn't pull the dog away. He had trained Max for years, and he knew that when the dog behaved like this, it was not random. Max could sense danger, and he was sending a clear message. Something about that soccer ball was wrong. Nearby, players and referees watched with a mix of confusion and concern. The referee blew the whistle repeatedly, trying to get the attention of the players, but they were distracted by the dog's behavior. Even seasoned athletes were beginning to realize that this was not a simple interruption. One of the forwards, a tall man with short hair and a focused look, raised his hands in surrender and stepped back. "Whatever that dog sees, it's serious," he muttered quietly to his teammate. Daniel signaled to a few police officers nearby. "Stay back," he said firmly. "Give us space." The officers obeyed, moving toward the sidelines to create a safety perimeter. Daniel kept one hand on Max and the other on his radio, contacting the stadium security command. "We have a potential situation," he said calmly, trying not to alarm the crowd. "The K-9 unit has detected something unusual. Please advise bomb squad to approach immediately." Meanwhile, the stadium crowd was growing restless. Murmurs spread like wildfire. "Is it a prank?" Some wondered. "Maybe someone left a toy on the field," others suggested. But the expressions of the officers and the dog told a different story. Parents pulled their children closer, and teenagers began whispering questions to each other. Cameras from phones and press crews were pointed toward the field, capturing every movement of the dog and the handler. Social media posts were being made in real time, spreading the news quickly beyond the stadium. The players, now fully aware that this was no ordinary interruption, stepped back toward the sidelines. Some of them exchanged worried glances, trying to process the situation. Coaches shouted instructions, keeping their teams calm and making sure nobody approached the area near the soccer ball. Fans quieted down, sensing the seriousness of what was happening. Even in the upper stands, where people had initially laughed at the barking dog, the mood had changed. Eyes followed every motion, and a quiet tension replaced the earlier excitement. Daniel knelt beside Max, speaking softly to him. "Good boy, Max. Keep focused, but stay calm." Max growled lowly, circling the ball again, his nose twitching and ears forward. Every movement was precise, deliberate. He wasn't playing. He was warning. Daniel knew this instinctive behavior was exactly what they had trained for in countless exercises. The dog's energy was infectious, and the officers around him remained alert, ready to follow his lead. A few security personnel moved cautiously toward the field to investigate, but Max immediately positioned himself between them and the soccer ball. He barked sharply, growled, and fixed his gaze on anyone who tried to come closer. It was as if he was saying, "Do not touch it." Daniel held his leash tighter and waved the officers to stand back. The stadium had fallen into a hush so complete that even the distant cheers of fans outside the main seating areas could not be heard clearly. From the crowd, some started to take videos with their phones. The murmurs and whispers continued, with speculation running wild. "Maybe it's a lost dog," someone suggested. Another voice said, "No, it's trained. Look at how it moves." A little girl clutched her father's arm tightly. "Daddy, why is the dog so serious?" she asked quietly. Her father looked down at her, trying to keep his voice calm. "It's just being careful, sweetheart. Let's trust the dog and the police." Daniel's radio crackled with instructions from the command center. "Bomb squad is en route. All non-essential personnel remain behind the barriers." Daniel nodded to the officers near him. They understood immediately. The dog's persistent behavior had made it clear that this was not something they could ignore. Max had found something, and whatever it was, it needed immediate attention. As the minutes passed, more officers joined the perimeter, creating a larger safety zone around the soccer ball. The referee motioned to the players to remain calm and stay near the sidelines. The fans, now silent, followed every movement, aware that something serious was unfolding. Some whispered prayers, others held their breath, and some simply watched in awe at the dog's determination. Max, sensing the tension, remained focused on the ball, his body low to the ground, ears perked, and tail slightly stiff. Daniel noticed how the crowd's attention had completely shifted. The game, the scores, the players, all of it faded into the background. All eyes were on Max and the mysterious soccer ball. He could see parents pointing out the dog to their children, explaining how trained dogs could sense danger, and he felt a deep sense of responsibility. Max was not just a dog. He was a trained protector, and Daniel knew that thousands of people were counting on him without even realizing it. The stadium announcer's voice came over the loudspeakers again, calm but serious. "Ladies and gentlemen, we ask that you remain seated and calm. Our security team is handling a situation on the field. Please stay behind the barriers and follow instructions. Thank you." Some fans nodded while others murmured questions. The tense atmosphere made even the most casual spectators pay attention to every small detail. A security officer approached Daniel cautiously. "What do you think it is, sir?" he asked quietly. Daniel shook his head, keeping one hand on Max. "I don't know yet," he replied. "But the dog is very clear this ball is not normal. Do not approach it until the bomb squad arrives." The officer nodded, backing away to keep the area secure. Children and adults alike watched in fascination as Max continued to circle the ball. It almost seemed like the dog was performing, showing everyone what vigilance looked like. But Daniel knew this was no show. This was serious. Max's training allowed him to detect the smallest unusual details, the faintest traces of danger, and right now he was sending a very clear message. There was something inside that ball that could be harmful. As the bomb squad's vehicles arrived near the stadium entrance, the crowd's attention grew even more intense. Fans whispered to each other, speculating about what might be inside the ball. The players huddled near their coaches, trying to stay calm and follow the instructions from the officials. Daniel continued to kneel beside Max, speaking softly. "Good boy, Max, stay calm. You're doing a great job." Max's eyes never left the ball, his bark punctuating the tense silence like a warning bell. The stadium, once filled with cheering and excitement, had transformed into a place of careful observation. People watched as the dog's behavior guided the authorities, understanding that this was a moment where instinct and training had the power to protect thousands of lives. Even the media crews filming every movement seemed to recognize the gravity of the situation. Cameras focused on the dog, capturing the tense circles and repeated barks, and reporters whispered quietly to each other about the unusual scene. As the bomb squad began moving carefully onto the field, Daniel guided Max slightly to ensure the dog remained safe but still attentive. Max barked sharply, growled, and nudged slightly toward the ball with his nose, almost urging the experts to proceed with caution. The stadium was completely silent now, as if holding its collective breath. Fans leaned forward, some clasping their hands together, others pressing their faces to the railing to get a better view. In that moment, Daniel felt the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. Max had already warned them all, and the next steps could determine the safety of thousands. He took a deep breath, keeping one hand steady on the leash and one eye on the bomb squad approaching. Max's behavior had made one thing very clear. Whatever was inside that soccer ball was serious, and it could not be ignored. The stadium had transformed from a place of fun and competition into a scene of suspense and vigilance. The fans, players, and officers all watched as the K9 dog and his handler became the center of attention, guiding everyone with a combination of instinct and training. It was a moment that nobody would forget, a moment when a dog's persistence and sharp senses demanded respect and focus. Max barked one final time as the bomb squad positioned themselves carefully around the ball. Daniel patted his side gently, whispering, "Good boy, Max, you've done well so far." The dog wagged his tail slightly but remained focused, ready to alert them to any sign of danger. The stadium, still tense, waited silently, knowing that the next moments would reveal the truth about what had caused this extraordinary scene. The stadium had gone completely silent, a stark contrast to the roaring excitement that had filled the stands just moments before. Every fan's attention was fixed on the field, and the unusual scene of a single dog circling a soccer ball had transformed into something far more serious. Officer Daniel kept his hand firmly on Max's leash, watching the German Shepherd with pride and concern. The dog's sharp eyes never left the ball, and each low, warning growl sent a chill through anyone standing near the field. Daniel knew that Max had never been wrong before. The dog had been trained extensively for situations exactly like this, finding dangerous items that humans might overlook. It was a skill that required patience, intuition, and intelligence. Max had honed these abilities over countless hours of training, and now in the middle of a stadium filled with people, those skills were being tested in real life. Daniel's heart raced, but he maintained his calm, knowing that any sudden movement could startle the dog or the crowd. The players had moved back to the sidelines, their expressions a mix of concern and disbelief. Coaches whispered instructions, keeping their teams focused on safety rather than the game. Even referees, who were used to controlling tense moments on the field, looked uncertain. The sheer presence of the K9 unit, combined with the dog's behavior, had turned an ordinary afternoon into an extraordinary scene of suspense. Some fans stood on their seats to get a better view, while others clutched their children's hands tightly. Phones were raised, capturing every moment as social media posts began spreading rapidly, showing a dog seemingly guarding a soccer ball in the middle of a stadium. Daniel spoke quietly into his radio, giving calm, precise instructions. Keep all non-essential personnel behind the barriers. Bomb squad is en route. The K9 unit has detected something unusual in the ball. Proceed with caution. The voice on the other end confirmed receipt and assured him that specialists were on their way. Daniel gave a nod of acknowledgement to the nearby officers. They understood immediately. Max's behavior wasn't random. He had found something, and it was their job to follow the protocols carefully. While the stadium waited, Daniel kept talking to Max softly. Good boy, Max. Stay focused. You're doing well. The dog circled the ball again, his body tense, muscles coiled as if ready to spring. Daniel could feel the energy emanating from Max, a mix of alertness and determination that he had only seen in moments of true danger. The dog's sense of focus was infectious. Officers and security personnel moved with extra caution, respecting the dog's instincts and keeping a safe perimeter. The bomb squad arrived shortly after, moving swiftly but carefully onto the field. They were a team of specialists trained to handle dangerous items with precision. Each member carried protective gear, and their equipment glinted under the afternoon sun. As they approached, Daniel allowed Max to take the lead, keeping the dog close but letting him guide their attention toward the soccer ball. Max's repeated barks and careful movements made it clear that this was no ordinary ball left behind. Crowd members leaned forward, their curiosity mixed with anxiety. Some whispered, trying to speculate about what might be inside the ball. Do you think it's just a toy? Asked one man, though his voice trembled slightly. No, his friend replied quietly. Look at how serious the dog is. That's not normal. Parents held their children close, explaining that sometimes trained dogs could sense things humans could not. Children, wide-eyed and quiet, watched Max's every move. The atmosphere was tense, electric with anticipation, as though the entire stadium were holding its breath. The bomb squad set up a controlled perimeter, moving slowly and deliberately around the soccer ball. They placed small protective mats and inspection equipment carefully on the grass. Daniel knelt beside Max, speaking softly. It's okay, Max. We'll handle this safely. Max's ears twitched and his growl deepened, signaling that the dog was fully engaged and ready for the next step. Daniel's confidence in the dog's abilities was unwavering. He knew that Max's alertness had prevented potential disaster already. As the specialists began their initial inspection, they noticed something unusual. The soccer ball, while ordinary at first glance, seemed heavier than expected. Its surface was slightly uneven, and faint seams suggested that it had been tampered with or modified. A closer look revealed small wires peeking through a tiny opening, something that most people would never have noticed. The team exchanged looks, silently acknowledging the seriousness of the situation. Daniel patted Max gently, whispering words of encouragement. You were right, Max, good boy. The crowd remained still, watching every careful movement. The announcer's voice came over the loudspeakers again, calm but serious. Ladies and gentlemen, we ask that you remain seated and behind the barriers. Our security team and specialists are handling a situation on the field. Your cooperation is appreciated. Even with these instructions, murmurs ran through the stands, a mix of curiosity and growing concern. Fans speculated wildly, some imagining harmless explanations, while others began to fear the worst. Max continued to circle the ball, occasionally pausing to bark sharply, as if emphasizing the importance of caution. Daniel stayed close, monitoring the dog's behavior and observing the bomb squad's reactions. The specialists were trained for situations like this, but they respected Max's instincts. The dog's behavior provided an additional layer of guidance, alerting them to any sudden movements or potential risks. Every bark, every focused stare was a reminder that this moment was critical. A member of the bomb squad carefully positioned a small device next to the ball to test for explosives. Max's ears twitched, and he barked once sharply, then resumed his circling pattern. Daniel whispered, "Yes, Max, good. Stay alert." The dog's behavior indicated that the potential danger was real, and the specialists adjusted their approach accordingly. The tension in the stadium was palpable, a shared feeling among fans, players, and officers alike. As the bomb squad continued their careful inspection, they discovered more unusual features. Inside the seams of the soccer ball were small, intricate components, wires, circuitry, and a compact device that looked like it could be dangerous. Daniel's heart pounded, but he remained calm, trusting Max's judgment and the expertise of the specialists. The crowd watched silently, their curiosity now tinged with awe at the dog's role in guiding the authorities. News photographers captured the scene, the German Shepherd in the foreground, focused and alert, and the specialists in protective gear behind him. Social media posts exploded, showing images of Max circling the ball, with captions highlighting the dog's bravery and intelligence. Fans in the stands whispered to one another, realizing that this was more than a simple game interruption. The dog had potentially saved lives without anyone realizing it yet. Children pointed excitedly at Max, asking their parents questions about what he was doing. Parents explained that trained dogs could sense things humans could not, and that sometimes their instincts were the first warning of danger. Teenagers and adults alike followed every movement, their initial amusement at the barking dog replaced by admiration and concern. The stadium, once a place of light-hearted competition, had become a scene of suspense and caution. Daniel continued to guide Max, making sure the dog remained safe while allowing him to lead the attention toward the potential threat. Max's growls, barks, and precise movements communicated everything the handlers needed to know. The bomb squad carefully prepared their tools using Max's cues to ensure they approached the soccer ball with the utmost caution. The atmosphere in the stadium was electric with anticipation, a shared awareness that this was a critical moment, one that could make a difference for everyone present. As the inspection progressed, Daniel felt a mixture of pride and tension. Max had shown once again why he was an invaluable member of the K9 unit. The dog's instincts, training, and intelligence had brought the authorities to this moment, and now the specialists were beginning to confirm what the dog had sensed from the start. Every bark, every circle around the ball, every sharp movement of Max's ears had been a signal, a warning that had been ignored by none. The stadium remained completely still, the usual cheers and songs replaced by quiet observation. Fans leaned forward in anticipation, unable to look away. Even those who had been skeptical of the dog's behavior now watched with admiration and a hint of fear, realizing that Max's actions had prevented a potential disaster. Daniel whispered to the dog, "You're amazing." "Max, you're saving everyone here." Max barked once, as if acknowledging the praise, and continued his careful circling, never letting his attention waver from the ball. Every detail mattered. The slight unevenness of the ball, the faint wires protruding, the way Max reacted. Everything combined to confirm the seriousness of the situation. Daniel's calm demeanor helped keep the crowd composed, and the bomb squad used the dog's cues to ensure that every action was measured and precise. The stadium had become a place of controlled tension, a space where instincts, training, and human awareness came together in perfect coordination. As the bomb squad prepared for the next steps, Daniel felt a sense of relief mixed with apprehension. Max had found something significant, and now the specialists would handle it carefully. The crowd remained silent but attentive, witnessing a dog's. The stadium remained frozen in silence, a tense energy hanging over every seat and every inch of the field. The usual sounds of cheering, laughter, and chants were replaced by whispers, shifting feet, and the occasional gasp. Fans leaned forward, straining to see what was happening, while parents clutched their children tightly. The bright afternoon sun made the green grass look almost golden, but the atmosphere was heavy with suspense. Everyone knew that something serious was unfolding. Max, the German Shepherd, stayed alert and focused, circling the soccer ball with careful precision. His ears were pricked and his eyes never left the object on the field. Officer Daniel knelt beside him, holding the leash but allowing the dog to guide the actions of the authorities. The handlers had complete trust in Max's instincts, and in moments like this, instinct was far more valuable than human speculation. Each bark and growl was a clear signal, Approach carefully, proceed slowly, and take nothing for granted. The bomb squad had set up a small, controlled perimeter around the soccer ball. Specialists in protective gear moved deliberately, checking their tools and scanning the object with specialized equipment. Cameras, mirrors, and sensors were positioned around the ball, and the team worked in silence, communicating only through quiet signals and gestures. Daniel watched closely, his heart beating faster with each moment. Max continued his careful circling, alert and watchful, occasionally nudging or growling to remind everyone of the importance of caution. Fans in the stands were captivated. They whispered among themselves, trying to imagine what could be inside the ball. Some speculated it might be an elaborate prank, while others feared something far more dangerous. Children asked their parents questions, their eyes wide with curiosity and anxiety. Parents tried to remain calm, explaining that the dog was trained to detect danger, and that authorities were handling the situation carefully. The tension in the stadium grew with every passing minute. The bomb squad began their inspection with extreme caution. Using small, precise tools, they probed the seams of the soccer ball. Max barked sharply at one point, his body tensed and low to the ground. Daniel leaned forward and whispered, "Good boy, Max, stay alert." The dog's growl was a warning, a reminder that this was not an ordinary object and that every movement had to be careful and deliberate. The specialists adjusted their approach, respecting the dog's instincts as an additional guide. Slowly, they began to reveal what was hidden inside the ball. At first, it seemed like nothing more than air and rubber, but careful probing revealed a dense, unusual weight. The specialists exchanged glances, realizing this was more than a simple toy or discarded soccer ball. They used mirrors and sensors to inspect the interior, and then, with extreme precision, they began to cut into the outer layer. Max remained alert, watching intently as every movement was made with care. The crowd held its collective breath. Gasps and murmurs spread through the stands as people realized that this was no ordinary interruption. Parents held their children closer and teenagers whispered in astonishment. Cameras flashed as photographers captured the tense scene, documenting every moment of the inspection. Social media posts were already circulating, showing the dog's determined behavior and the careful movements of the specialists. It was a moment that would be remembered long after the match. As the outer layer was carefully removed, the specialists discovered wires and small electronic components hidden inside the soccer ball. Max barked sharply, circling closer, his nose twitching. Daniel whispered encouragement, patting the dog gently. "Good boy, Max, you were right." The dog's persistence had led them to a discovery that no one had anticipated. The crowd watched in silence, captivated by the dog's keen instincts and the careful work of the professionals. The specialists continued their inspection, revealing more details. A compact device with wiring, small circuits, and a mechanism that could be dangerous if mishandled. Daniel's hands tightened slightly on Max's leash, but he remained calm, knowing that the dog's alertness had already prevented potential harm. Max growled softly, circling the ball as if ensuring that no one approached recklessly. The stadium, once filled with excitement and cheer, now experienced a collective sense of awe and relief that the dog had prevented a disaster. News photographers captured the moment as Max remained alert, and Daniel knelt beside him, whispering words of encouragement. Fans in the stands whispered to one another, realizing the seriousness of what was happening. The soccer ball, which had seemed harmless moments before, now appeared as a hidden threat, and everyone could see the incredible role the dog had played in discovering it. The atmosphere was electric, filled with a mix of tension, admiration, and relief. Slowly, the bomb squad carefully removed the dangerous device from the ball. Max remained watchful, growling softly at anyone who approached too closely. Daniel whispered, "Good job, Max. You saved lives today." The dog wagged his tail slightly, eyes still fixed on the device. The crowd erupted into a mix of cheers, clapping, and relieved sighs, realizing the danger that had been narrowly avoided. Fans began applauding not the players but the dog, whose alertness and persistence had prevented a tragedy. Children pointed at Max, whispering excitedly to their parents about how brave and smart he was. Teenagers filmed the scene, sharing videos on social media with captions praising the dog's courage. Parents explained that trained dogs could detect dangers that humans might not notice, and that Max's instincts had been the first line of defense. The stadium, once a place of pure entertainment, had become a place of heroism, with a loyal dog at the center of it all. Daniel guided Max carefully away from the device as the specialists moved it to a secure area for final disposal. Max continued to watch, ensuring that everyone remained safe. Fans remained in their seats, applauding, cheering, and even standing in respect for the dog and his handler. The announcer's voice came over the loudspeakers, explaining to the crowd that a dangerous device had been discovered and safely removed thanks to the efforts of the K9 unit and the bomb squad. Applause and cheers filled the stadium, mixed with gasps of relief. Players returned to the sidelines, their expressions a mix of amazement and gratitude. Coaches shook their heads in disbelief, realizing how close they had come to a potential disaster. Daniel patted Max on the neck, whispering, "You were amazing. Everyone is safe because of you." Max wagged his tail slightly, the tension in his body easing just a little. The stadium erupted in cheers, not for the game, but for the four-legged hero who had stopped a disaster before it could begin. News crews began broadcasting the scene live, showing the German Shepherd in action and explaining the incredible events that had unfolded. Social media posts spread rapidly, with fans praising Max and his handler. People marveled at the dog's instincts and intelligence, realizing that sometimes a dog's alertness could save hundreds, even thousands, of lives. The stadium had been witness to an extraordinary event, one that combined suspense, bravery, and quick thinking into a moment that would be remembered for years. As the bomb squad completed their work and the device was secured, Daniel and Max received a round of applause from the crowd. Children waved excitedly, adults cheered, and even players and coaches acknowledged the dog's role. Daniel knelt, giving Max a gentle pat and soft praise. "Good boy. You did everything perfectly." Max barked softly in response, tail wagging slightly, proud of the job he had done. The crowd's cheers and applause made it clear. Max was the hero of the stadium that day. The stadium slowly returned to a calmer state. Fans resumed their seats, but the excitement had shifted. The match could continue, but everyone knew that what had happened was far more important than any goal or score. Daniel led Max off the field slowly, keeping him calm and focused while specialists ensured the area was safe for the players. The dog had not only detected a dangerous device but had guided authorities through a tense and delicate situation with precision and bravery. Parents pointed out Max to their children, explaining how trained dogs could detect danger and why it was important to trust their instincts. Teenagers shared videos on social media, praising the K9 unit and spreading the story of the dog who had saved countless lives. The stadium, once full of only sport and competition, had experienced something far more memorable, a real-life moment of heroism, courage, and alertness. Daniel stayed beside Max, whispering soft words of praise. "You saved everyone today. You were incredible." Max responded with a gentle bark as if acknowledging the praise and wagged his tail slightly. The stadium erupted in applause once more, this time in recognition of a hero who had 4 legs, sharp instincts, and a loyal heart. It was a moment of celebration, relief, and admiration, all rolled into one. The stadium had finally begun to breathe again. The tension that had gripped every fan, player, and officer was slowly easing. Children hugged their parents tightly, some wide-eyed with excitement and relief, while teenagers shared the latest videos and updates on social media. Cameras flashed as reporters captured the remarkable scene, showing Max, the German Shepherd, standing proudly beside Officer Daniel. The dog's ears were perked, his eyes sharp and alert, and his tail wagged slowly in recognition of the praise surrounding him. Daniel knelt beside Max, gently patting his side. "Good boy, Max, you've done it. You saved everyone here today." Max responded with a soft bark, looking up at Daniel with the kind of trust and loyalty only a dog could show. The bomb squad had moved the dangerous device to a secure vehicle, ensuring that the stadium and everyone inside were completely safe. Players slowly returned to the field, still in awe of what had happened, while coaches shared relieved smiles. The day's soccer match, which had been interrupted by a barking dog, had now become a story of courage and heroism that no one would ever forget. Fans erupted in applause, cheering not for goals or skills, but for the dog and his handler. People stood up in the stands, clapping and waving to show their gratitude. Children waved tiny flags, shouting, "Good boy, Max." Adults joined in, cheering and whistling, their relief palpable. It was a rare moment in which the crowd recognized a hero in a form they might never have expected. a loyal, trained dog whose instincts had prevented a tragedy. The stadium's energy shifted from tension to celebration, a unique blend of joy and admiration. Daniel guided Max slowly toward the sidelines, keeping the dog calm, but allowing him to soak in the attention. Fans called out to the dog, waving hands and cheering. Max wagged his tail slightly and barked softly in response, as if acknowledging the appreciation. Daniel felt a deep sense of pride. Max had performed flawlessly, using training, instincts, and intelligence to protect thousands of people. It was a reminder of the extraordinary bond between a handler and his dog, and the remarkable abilities of animals when trained to serve and protect. Players approached cautiously, some kneeling to pat Max gently on the head. "Amazing dog," one forward said, smiling widely. "I've never seen anything like this." Coaches nodded, shaking their heads in disbelief. Even the referees, who had been unsure about the situation at first, now expressed admiration. The stadium had witnessed something beyond the game, a real-life hero at work. Every person present understood that the day would be remembered, not for goals or victories, but for the bravery of a four-legged companion who refused to ignore danger. News crews rushed to capture the moment from every angle. Reporters spoke quietly, narrating the incredible events to viewers at home. Cameras focused on Max as he circled slowly, still attentive, while Daniel knelt beside him. Social media posts exploded, showing clips of the dog, the tense moments leading up to the discovery, and the crowd's reactions. The story spread quickly, with headlines praising the dog for preventing a disaster and emphasizing the importance of trained canine units in public safety. Children at home watched in awe. Parents explained the value of training and loyalty, and viewers everywhere marveled at the courage displayed on a sunny afternoon at a soccer match. Daniel took a moment to scan the crowd. Fans were still applauding, some waving banners with messages like "Thank you, Max" and "Hero Dog." Children held up drawings of Max, their small hands trembling with excitement. Parents explained to them how important it was to pay attention to trained animals, and how these dogs worked alongside humans to keep everyone safe. The stadium, once filled with tension and worry, was now alive with admiration and relief. Every eye was on Max, every cheer a tribute to his bravery. The bomb squad completed their work, securing the device in a specially equipped vehicle. Specialists spoke quietly to each other, confirming that the situation was completely safe. Daniel guided Max a few steps away from the ball, allowing the dog to relax slightly while remaining alert. Max wagged his tail, a subtle but proud gesture as if acknowledging that he had done his duty. The crowd noticed this small movement, and a fresh round of applause and cheers echoed through the stadium. Players returned to the field, though the match had been temporarily suspended. Coaches gathered their teams, discussing safety protocols and acknowledging the extraordinary events that had taken place. Even in the midst of preparation to resume the game, conversations continued about Max and the incredible role he had played. Parents pointed to the dog and whispered stories to their children, explaining the value of courage, vigilance, and loyalty. Teenagers shared videos and commentary, spreading the tale far beyond the stadium itself. Daniel stood and looked around, feeling the gratitude of thousands of people, though few fully understood the depth of the danger that had been averted. He knelt once more beside Max, speaking softly. "You were perfect. Everyone is safe because of you." Max barked softly, his eyes focused and bright. The bond between handler and dog was evident, an unspoken understanding that this was a job well done. The German Shepherd's instincts, combined with years of training, had turned what could have been a tragedy into a moment of heroism for the entire stadium. The stadium announcer spoke again over the loudspeakers, this time in a tone of celebration. "Ladies and gentlemen, we are happy to report that the situation has been safely handled, thanks to the efforts of our K9 unit and the bomb squad. Let's give a big round of applause to our four-legged hero Max and his handler, Officer Daniel." The applause was deafening. Fans clapped, cheered, and waved, while children jumped up and down, shouting and pointing. Max barked happily, ears perked and tail wagging, while Daniel smiled, proud of the dog's bravery. News crews interviewed Daniel, who spoke calmly, explaining Max's training and the importance of K9 units in public safety. "Max has been with me for several years," Daniel said. "He's trained to detect dangerous items and alert us immediately. Today he did exactly that. and he saved thousands of people without anyone realizing it until now. I'm incredibly proud of him." Reporters nodded, capturing every word, while the camera focused on Max, who remained attentive and proud. Children approached the field's edge, guided by parents hoping to see Max up close. Daniel knelt, allowing the children to wave and gently pet the dog under his supervision. Max remained calm, wagging his tail slowly, acknowledging the admiration but remaining alert. The children's faces lit up with joy and awe, witnessing firsthand a hero in action. Parents explained that trained dogs were invaluable in many public situations, and Max's behavior was a perfect example of courage and intelligence working together. The players returned to the field for the match, but the atmosphere had changed. Fans cheered, but not just for the game. They cheered for heroism, for loyalty, for the extraordinary actions of a dog who had refused to ignore danger. Coaches gathered their teams, explaining that while the match would continue, the real lesson of the day had already been taught. Vigilance, courage, and teamwork could prevent disaster in ways that people sometimes overlooked. Daniel stood beside Max one final time, looking around at the cheering crowd. He patted the dog gently, whispering words of pride and gratitude. "Everyone is safe because of you, Max. You did amazing." Max barked softly, tail wagging, ears perked, and eyes bright. The stadium erupted once more in cheers, claps, and applause, celebrating the incredible actions of a four-legged hero. As the stadium slowly returned to normal, with fans returning to their seats and the players resuming their positions, the story of Max and his bravery spread rapidly. People would tell the tale for years to come, of a German shepherd who refused to ignore danger, who guided authorities to prevent disaster, and who reminded everyone of the extraordinary power of loyalty and instinct. The day had started as an ordinary soccer match, but it had become a lesson in courage, vigilance, and the extraordinary bond between humans and their animal companions. Daniel led Max off the field slowly, keeping him calm but allowing him to bask in the recognition. Fans continued to cheer, children waved, and photographers snapped pictures that would later make headlines. Max had become a hero not just in the stadium, but in the hearts of everyone who had witnessed his courage. Officer Daniel felt a deep sense of pride, knowing that the dog he had trained so diligently had performed flawlessly when it mattered the most. By the time the stadium emptied, the story had already begun to spread across television, social media, and news websites. Headlines praised Max as a hero, and countless viewers marveled at the dog's intelligence and courage. Children drew pictures, parents told the story again and again, and the tale of Max's bravery became an example of how loyalty, training, and instinct could save lives in unexpected ways. The match resumed, but the memory of the day's events lingered in everyone's minds. Every cheer, every clap, every smile reminded people of the German shepherd who had refused to ignore danger. Max's actions had not only prevented a disaster, but had also inspired awe, gratitude, and admiration from thousands of people. The stadium, once a place of casual entertainment, had been transformed into a theater of heroism and courage, with Max standing proudly at its center. Daniel knelt one last time beside Max, whispering softly, "You've done something.